So Thomas Tuchel has just announced his 26-man squad for the 2026 World Cup. So today we're going to talk about, who made the squad, who didn't make the squad, which ones were guarantees to happen, which ones were surprises, which omissions were surprising, which inclusions in the squad were surprising. So yeah, man, let's get into it. And first of all, let's go through the players who we kind of knew they were going to make the squad, Guys like Jordan Pickford, Mark Guéhi, Ezri Konsa, Declan Rice, Elliot Anderson, Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane, Bukayo Saka, Marcus Rashford, Morgan Rogers. I think them guys, you kind of knew, all right, cool. No matter what happens, they're going to make this squad, They're going to make this squad. So we don't need to take too much time on them players. I think everybody across the nation would agree that, those players that I just mentioned, they deserve their place on the World Cup, They've all had, great seasons or great ends to the seasons, or they've performed for England in the past, So we'll move on from them players. They're the obvious ones. Everybody knew they were going to make it. I don't think anyone has a problem with them. Now let's talk about the inclusions, the surprise inclusions, or the inclusions that were a little bit 50-50. So first of all, shout out to Nico O'Reilly, man. I think he's another one who people look at Nico O'Reilly's performances and be like, he definitely deserves it. But I just want to say shout out to him as a Man City fan, man. For him to just come in at such a young age. At the start of this season, nobody really thought that he would have a big part to play in Pep Guardiola's last season. But hey, man, helps Pep's team get to a cup double. That EFL Cup final, that Carabao Cup final, the O'Reilly final, O'Reilly double, special, man. That's a special player, top talent, and he definitely deserves to go to the World Cup. Same as Jarell Quansah. Quansah, he's in the Bundesliga, he's out of the limelight, but he's played 44 games for Leverkusen this season, He's been a big integral part of their team, of making European football. I'm pretty sure they came 6th this year, and they did make it to the Europa League, so he deserves a place. One guy that was in the squad that I was surprised was in the squad was John Stones, because even me as a City fan, I haven't seen a lot of John Stones this season at all. So I don't know about, that selection from Thomas Tuchel, because I'm here thinking, is Stones even fit? Is Stones even fit? It was just announced that after 10 years, he's about to leave City. But it feels like I haven't seen him all season, Has he been fit? It feels like John Stones has been suffering from a multitude of injuries for the last 18 months. So I don't know Tuchel's reasoning behind that. Maybe it's just one of them ones where he really trusts John Stones, where John Stones fits the style of football that Thomas Tuchel wants to play. He's like, I need this sort of caliber player here. But that was very surprising for me personally, because John Stones has suffered with so many injuries, especially when, he left out a guy like Levi Colwill, who came in, a few games ago, had a very good end to the season, and can also offer that ball playing ability from the back. So John Stones for me was quite surprising, That for me was quite surprising. Obviously, I forgot to mention Reece James as well. Reece James, he's another one of the players at the start I mentioned that, we kind of knew about Reece James, So we know how good Reece James is. If he's fit, he's going to the World Cup, Quality player, man, whether it's at right back or whether it's in centre mid. Guys like Dan Burn made it. Hey, man, Dan Burn, another one. Tuchel, that's Tuchel's player. That's his guy. Offers a different dimension, brings that height in there. Him and O'Reilly at left back, that's two very, tall left backs winning headers. They're going to come in handy at the World Cup, But let's move on to the midfield, man. The midfield who made it in the England squad. First of all, let's start with Kobbie Mainoo, man. Kobbie Mainoo, start of the season. My guy who is drowning under Amorim. Absolutely drowning under Amorim. We were looking at Kobbie like, Kobbie was supposed to leave Man United in January, But Michael Carrick came in, he saved the day, and he got Kobbie Mainoo a place on that England plane, He got Kobbie Mainoo a place. Shout out to Michael Carrick, but shout out to Kobbie Mainoo as well for, being professional, sticking at it, performing when he did get that opportunity, and now he's on the plane for England. And, he's such a talented player in my opinion. He deserves, a guy like Kobbie should be on the plane, Especially the way he's performed in these last, couple weeks. he should be on that plane. You know, there's been questions in the past about Kobbie Mainoo's mobility, but he looks very, very sharp. You know what I'm saying? He looks very sharp. It feels like he's lost a bit of weight as well. You know, he's looking more trim on the football pitch. I remember, you know, I think in Ten Hag's final season, he was looking a bit chunky. You know what I'm saying? But he looks like he's moving a lot better now. You know what I'm saying? It's like ever since he cut his dreads, he's been moving. He's really been moving a lot better. You know, I'm seeing him, you know, chase people back, win slide tackles, recovery. So shout out to Kobbie Mainoo for, you know, getting himself back into the England fray. You know what I'm saying? Because it was looking dark at the start of this season under Ruben Amorim. After, you know, Kobbie having a breakthrough 2024. Where he won man of the match, FA Cup final, started for England in the Euros. You know, 2025 wasn't really a good year for him, you know what I'm saying? But this 2026 has been a bounce back, and he's got his name, he's got his call up, you know what I'm saying? So shout out to Kobbie Mainoo, man. Also in the squad, let's talk about a guy who is going to split opinion. But in my opinion, it was the right decision to call him up. Let's talk about Jordan Henderson. So when it comes to Jordan Henderson, I know a lot of people will be like, oh, what the hell's Henderson doing in there again? You know what I'm saying? Why is Henderson in the squad again? But listen, bro, he's probably not going to play a single minute in this tournament unless England win their first 2 group games. And, you know, they've already qualified, or how many other group games it is this time in the World Cup, you know what I'm saying? I'm still a bit, you know, on the rules. But if England have a game in hand in the group stage and they already secured, you know, their place in the knockouts, that's probably the only games that Henderson's going to be playing. However, I feel like his leadership is very, very vital to this England team. Just having someone there just to hold everything together inside around their camp. Somebody who I'm pretty sure has been to every England tournament. Is it since the World Cup 2014? I'm pretty sure he's been to every single one since then. So having that experience at tournaments, you know what I'm saying? Despite him never winning one, he's been to 2 Euros finals, you know what I'm saying? He's been to 2 Euros finals, played in the World Cup semi as well, you know what I'm saying? He's been through the highs, you know, getting to finals, losing finals. He's missed a penalty in the final himself. So I just think, not in the final, sorry, he's missed a penalty against, was it Colombia? I'm pretty sure. But in the round of 16 in 2018. But I think having a guy like that with experience is going to really, really help. And I remember there was videos in the last sort of tournament at the Euros where he was really pushing, you know, the quote-unquote backup players, sort of giving them encouragement. Because, you know, if you're a backup player in a tournament, it's sort of hard to, you know, get up for training sessions if you know you're not really going to have an impact. But he was really, really, you know what I'm saying? He was telling them, yo, we have to push the starters, you know what I'm saying? We have to push these starters. We have to, you know, make sure they're sharp. That's our jobs. Even if we're not playing, even if nobody sees our work behind the scenes, we have to do our job to make sure that these starters are ready. You know what I'm saying? That's what Henderson was telling these players. And yeah, and having a guy like that, in my opinion, is so, so valuable. So I think bringing Jordan Henderson, you know, a guy that could have easily just sort of rolled out into the sunset, gone to, you know, MLS or gone to Saudi. He did actually go to Saudi, but he came back. He came back to play, you know, competitive football again, went to Ajax, came back to the Premier League with Brentford. That shows ambition, you know what I'm saying? That shows longevity. That shows that the guy cares, you know what I'm saying? The guy cares. He's not the most flashy baller. I'll admit myself, you know, even when I was younger, I used to think, oh, this guy's a dusty baller. But when I got older, I realized the importance of a player like that, the professionalism, you know what I'm saying? The good effect that he'll have on the young players around the camp, you know what I'm saying? He needs to be there, in my opinion. And I think a top manager like Thomas Tuchel, he understands that as well. And that's why he's brought Henderson into the fray. So I know from maybe a footballing perspective, there are certain other midfielders who we'll get into, who might be more talented, might be more, you know, suited to, you know, play now in 2026. But I just think, you know, there's certain intangibles when you go into a tournament that you must consider. And I think Jordan Henderson's leadership, you have to consider that as a positive effect on the squad as an entire whole, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I know a lot of people won't be happy with that selection, but I think it was personally the right decision. But let's move on to another player who might raise a little bit of eyebrows. Noni Madueke's inclusion, you know what I'm saying? Madueke is a player, he splits opinions, you know. He's one of them guys, he gets a lot of flack, you know, Madueke. He gets a lot of flack, maybe because he's not the most appealing footballer on the ball, you know what I'm saying? You know, he had the Ruby Rose stuff. He's a target, Madueke, you know what I'm saying? Madueke is just one of them guys where it's just like, he gets a lot of flack. He gets a lot of flack on social media. People are always clowning the guy. But I think him being there, this season he proved that he can be Saka's backup, you know what I'm saying? And Saka, he's going to be the guy that's probably going to start on that right for England. And hey, man, having Madueke as a backup, he knows that role well. And another thing as well, people need to understand is that, you're complaining about having wide men like Madueke, or maybe you're a guy who thinks Anthony Gordon shouldn't be there. But remember, last tournament, what were we all complaining about? What was the main issue we were all complaining about watching England? The lack of width. You know what I'm saying? The lack of width, the lack of wing, you know, options, you know what I'm saying? We were like, if it's not Bukayo Saka, we don't have any width, you know. Foden will sometimes play on the left. Bellingham will find himself on the left. You know, Palmer on the right. There was no sort of width. There was no sort of, you know, guy to bring a different dynamic, you know what I'm saying? That's what we were all complaining about. And even at a time, we had to play Saka left back. So then there was really no width, you know what I'm saying? But now we actually have width. So I think, you know, bringing Madueke, Anthony Gordon, this is a good thing. Marcus Rashford as well. You know what I'm saying? Having these guys to come off the bench, even if they don't start, brings a different dimension. And man, we can't complain, because wing depth was something we were heavily complaining about in the last tournament. We said there was a lack of balance due to a guy like Palmer playing on the wing, or a guy like Phil Foden playing on the wing. So I think, you know, including wingers like Madueke, Gordon and Rashford, it was very good. I also forgot to mention, you know, another two fullbacks, you know, Jed Spence and Tino Livramento. You know, I think they're two very good players and two versatile players. I think Tuchel has picked them because, look, these are two players who have played both at right back and at left back, you understand? Livramento's done both. Jed Spence has proven that he can do both as well. So I think Tuchel was just thinking that, squad depth, you know what I'm saying? Squad depth, you know, we got two players, very versatile players, can play right back and left back. That's why I think Thomas Tuchel has personally gone with them. But let's round up, you know, the actual squad with the last player that raised a few eyebrows as well, Ivan Toney. Now, I personally think, you know, Ivan Toney, he's a great player, you know, great striker. I know he's out there in Saudi. People say, it's not the most competitive league. A lot of people were arguing for, you know, a guy like Danny Welbeck. And I would have loved to see, you know, a comeback arc for Danny Welbeck in the England team. And I think at a certain point in the season, it seemed like a no-brainer. He was on fire, scored the double against Liverpool. I think he was, you know, the highest English scorer in the Premier League, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe could potentially even be the highest scoring Englishman outside of Harry Kane, to be fair. I think there was one certain point he was. But I think Ivan Toney, you know what I'm saying, he's good enough, you know what I'm saying, he's good enough. Apparently Ivan Toney was surprised himself when he got the call, which is crazy to me. Apparently Thomas Tuchel said that, but I just think he's quality, you know, Ivan Toney. To be that backup to Kane, I just think he's a great player. And yes, Welbeck, he's banged in goals for Brighton, and if you tell me, I think Welbeck should have made it instead of Toney, I won't argue with you. But when it comes to Ivan Toney, I do feel like, his quality, you know, his ability to take penalties if you know, certain ties do go to penalties. I just think, you know, overall as a player, I do think Toney has a bit more quality than Danny Welbeck. So I'm not too mad at Ivan Toney making the England team, you know what I'm saying? And in terms of the players who made it, I don't have too much of an issue with who actually made the team, you know what I'm saying? The only one I raise my eyebrows at, and this is me as a Man City fan, is John Stones, because I'm thinking to myself, the whole season, he hasn't really been fit. You know, like I said, last 18 months, we haven't really seen him. Even if when he does come back, you know, he hasn't really had a run of consistent games. So maybe Thomas Tuchel uses him as a backup, but that's the only one that, you know, I raise my eyebrows a little bit. But everyone else, to be fair, I can see the reasoning, I can see the logic behind it. But now let's get into the good part. Let's get into the omissions and who I thought, you know, was Riley omitted from this England team and who should have made it, who could have, you know, who had a strong argument to get on the plane. So let's start off with the three players who play in that number 10 position that will be occupied in the summer by the likes of Rodgers and Jude Bellingham. And that's Phil Foden, Cole Palmer and Morgan Gibbs-White. let's start with Morgan Gibbs-White. When it comes to Morgan Gibbs-White, did have a slow start to the season, you know what I'm saying? Forest weren't really doing well under Sean Dash, but he really, really picked it up and he saved them from relegation, you know what I'm saying? His end to the season, he definitely had a claim, you know what I'm saying? He definitely had a claim, but hey, man, I think this is just a matter of preference. I just think Tuchel prefers Morgan Rogers, you know what I'm saying? I just think that's just a matter of preference. I don't think it's a sort of slight at Gibbs-White and his performances, because I think, you know, he ended the season so well. I just think it's a Tuchel preference for me, you know what I'm saying? If Gibbs-White would have made it, I would have said Fez, but now he doesn't. Tuchel prefers Bellingham and Rogers in those positions. Hey, man, it just is what it is, to be honest, because in another generation, maybe Morgan Rogers, you know, is making England teams, you know, easily, but it's weird because England spent so long having no number 10s apart from Wayne Rooney. Like, Wayne Rooney was like the only proper guy who could play behind the striker for so long for England. And then all of a sudden, coronavirus hit, and now they've all just come out of nowhere. Phil Foden, Cole Palmer, James Maddison, Eberici Eze, who made the squad I didn't mention. Morgan Gibbs-White, Morgan Rogers, they've all just spawned out of nowhere. All these number 10s, all these guys who like to occupy the space in between a midfield and defence, they've all just come out of nowhere, you know what I'm saying? After England going so long, just having number 6s, just having, you know, box-to-box number 8s, now we've all got all these guys who like to play in the pocket. So competition, in terms of the entire England squad, that's the position that probably has the highest competition. And I think Morgan Gibbs-White, he was just unfortunate that, hey, man, Morgan Rogers just ended up having a better season than him in terms of individually and also team. So that's Morgan Gibbs-White. When it comes to Cole Palmer and Phil Foden, unfortunately, these are two very talented players that unfortunately just have not hit the heights in the last 18 months. Forget this season, even the back ends of last season. Yes, Palmer did win the Conference League for Chelsea and he was very good in that final, but he hasn't hit the heights. Phil Foden, ever since he had that PFA Player of the Year campaign, he just hasn't really, you know, been at it. I know he had some personal issues in 24-25, but 25-26, we really expected Phil Foden, me as a City fan, I expected Foden to, you know, bounce back from that and really kick on. Like, in my opinion, he should have been, you know, one of the main guys. He should be Phil Foden now. He's been in the first team for about, you know, 8-9 years now, and he's pretty much, you know, been amongst the starters since, you know, 2020. He should be, you know, one of the faces of Man City when we're challenging for league titles, you know what I'm saying? He should be one of the faces, you know. With David Silva gone now, with Ilkay Gundogan gone now, with Kevin De Bruyne gone, Phil Foden, as a club, we've been begging you, yo, take the keys, take us there, be our chief creator behind Erling Haaland, but he just hasn't done that, you know what I'm saying? He's had flashes, he's had moments, you know what I'm saying? In the lockdown season, 2020, 2021, he scored a brilliant goal to win us a game at Anfield. Scored a brilliant goal against Borussia Dortmund and was really good on our run to that first Champions League final where we did lose to Chelsea. He's had moments. He scored goals against Liverpool. You know what I'm saying? But it's just never been a sustained period of time. He had that PFA Player of the Year campaign from January to May, where he was sensational, exceptional, but he just hasn't been able to, you know, really produce a 9, 10, 12 month span where you look at it and it's like, yo, Phil Foden, you're the guy. Phil Foden is at the stage of his career where it should be a case of like, yo, when you have guys like Cherki come in, it should be Foden and Cherki together. That's the sort of player, that's how you should be viewed, Foden, you know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be either or, it should be you're both there. Phil Foden, that right side, it should be yours, my guy. It should be yours, bro. Like, or if it's Cherki's right and the number 10 is yours, Foden, it should be yours. We should not be talking about, even when we sign Semenyo, it should not be Doku and Semenyo on the wing. At this stage of Foden's career, it should be, alright, cool. The headache for Pep should be, do I play Doku or Semenyo on the left? Because Cherki and Foden, them positions should be locked off. You see the importance that Pep has with Cherki and Haaland? Foden, you should be in that category. You shouldn't be one of them guys who's chopping and changing for Man City. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you play, sometimes you don't. You're at the stage now where it's like, bro, you're 25. You should really be, you know, one of the main guys. You know what I'm saying? Like I've said, you've had periods where you've been the main guy, but it just hasn't been sustained long enough. You know what I'm saying? You had that PFA Player of the Year campaign. You had that run to the Champions League final in 2021. But even in the treble year, you know, it was Jack Grealish, it was Mahrez, it was De Bruyne. Those were the guys, Haaland. Those were the guys spearheading, you know, the attacks. In 2021, it was more De Bruyne and Gundogan. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Even when Pep went to that false nine, you were starting games, but the main guys, it was Gundo, it was KDB. Those were the two, you know, when we were doing that false nine with no striker for those 2 seasons, they were the guys, you know what I'm saying? They were the guys. You're meant to be the guy now, you know. Like I said, David Silva's gone. All the guys are gone now. You're meant to be the chief creator. We're supposed to hand you the keys. Because even in your PFA Player of the Year season, bro, before KDB came back, it was looking dark for City. You know what I'm saying? It feels like anytime we've given Foden the responsibility of being the chief creator in there, he just hasn't, you know, taken that opportunity and ran with it. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, even when Foden was at his best, KDB was next to him, and KDB's return, we remember that return against Newcastle. That's what really spearheaded that title running. But yeah, man, I feel like Foden, he's at a crossroads in his career, man. He needs to figure out, like, yo, he's better than this. He knows he's better than this. He should look at himself and be like, yo, there's no way at this stage of his, at 25, considering how long he's been around the first team, that he should not be making England squads. It's ridiculous. But hey, man, let me stop ranting about Phil Foden, man. No disrespect. I just, you know, as a City fan, I just know how good the guy can be when he's on it, and he should be in a squad like this. But as for Cole Palmer, he just hasn't really been good enough. He hasn't hit the heights whatsoever that he did in his debut season for Chelsea, you know, and it's been very inconsistent for a while. There was a period of time this season Chelsea were actually playing better without him, and then he came back and they started losing games under Liam. So that's a damning thing as well. So Cole Palmer's another one where it's just like, you know what I'm saying, we gave him a bit of grace because of that first season, but it's been 2 whole years now. So that credit in the bank thing, it's going. You know what I'm saying? It's going. You scored a goal in the Euro final. Brilliant. You came on, you made an impact in that tournament. But it's been 2 whole years now. So that credit in the bank thing, hey man, we need more, you know what I'm saying? And you both being omitted from this squad, it shows that Thomas Tuchel's looking at you, man, like, yo, we need more. But let's move on to Maguire and Luke Shaw, 2 guys who have been in the England setup. You know, they were some of the faces of the Gareth Southgate England, and it looks to me that because they didn't make this tournament, this might be their last time that we ever see them to, you know, suit up for England at a major tournament, you know what I'm saying? Let's start with Harry Maguire. He was shocked to be left out. To be fair, I did think he was going to get selected, you know what I'm saying? I did think he was going to get selected. I thought, you know, maybe that credit in the bank in the past for England would have helped him out, but clearly this is a new regime. This is a new manager in Thomas Tuchel. He has his guys, and Maguire, he's clearly, you know, Maguire's past, you know, successes with England is clearly not enough to, you know, convince Southgate convinced Tuchel of a seat on the plane, you know what I'm saying, on a seat on a plane. Maguire, he's not really a starter for Man United anymore. He's sort of seen as, you know, 4th, 5th choice centre back. So I guess it makes sense. And then as for Luke Shaw, he's actually had his fittest season in a while. You know what I'm saying? We all know tournament year Luke Shaw. We all know what he's about, man. As soon as there's a tournament year, all of a sudden he's fit for 30, 35 games. When it's not a tournament year, hey man, you'll be lucky if you get 20 out of the guy, man. But I thought he'd be selected, but clearly Thomas Tuchel, he has his preferences, you know what I'm saying? He prefers Nico O'Reilly, he prefers Dan Burn, he prefers, you know, the versatility of a Spence, of a Livramento at the back. So, hey man, that's just tough, you know what I'm saying? That's just tough. But I'm not too upset, you know, with them not making the squad. I think we've got enough quality at the back there with the likes of Konsa, Guehi, and Jarell Quansah as well. So, and John Stones. So I'm perfectly fine with them 2 not being in there. As for Trent Alexander-Arnold, hurts me, man, because he's one of them players. I love watching Trent as a footballer, but it just seems like he's gonna be one of them guys, innit? He's just gonna be one of them talented players that just never makes it for his national team for one reason or another, you know what I'm saying? He did have injuries, but I did feel like there was a period of time this year where he was playing well. But to be fair, it could have been overshadowed by, you know, all the drama at Real Madrid, you know, him, you know, being a part of it. I don't know. I'm not saying that, you know, he was causing trouble, but him just being a part of that whole Real Madrid fiasco. They went trophyless again this year, you know what I'm saying? But there were certain games where I watched Trent for Real Madrid and I thought, yo, this guy's still quality, you know what I'm saying? However, the defensive side of the game and last Euros tournament, we tried Trent in midfield, didn't really work. So I'm not really too surprised that Thomas Tuchel has opted not to select Trent, despite him being one of the most talented English footballers in world football, in my opinion, at the moment. But the one guy I feel like should have made it and didn't make it, and I'm disappointed because he's my baller, is Adam Wharton, man. Adam Wharton. He's one of them guys where I want Man City to sign Adam Wharton, man. If Rodri goes, or even if Rodri stays, to be fair, I want to sign Adam Wharton. We've been linked to Elliot Anderson, but me, I'm an Adam Wharton guy, man. He reminds me of a Michael Carrick, man, and I think he's going to suffer the same fate as Michael Carrick did all those years for England, man. Despite being a technically brilliant footballer, that deep line playmaker role, I just feel like he's going to get overshadowed by the guys who in midfield who seem to have a bit more legs about them. The likes of Declan Rice who can get up and down. The likes of Elliot Anderson who can get up and down. Bellingham up and down, you know what I'm saying? I think he's just going to get overshadowed by guys like that. Just like Michael Carrick got overshadowed by, you know, the Steven Gerrards, the Frank Lampard, you know what I'm saying? I feel like that's going to happen. Kind of happened to Paul Scholes as well. Paul Scholes, he wasn't really that, you know, dynamic player. Scholes and Carrick, they really suffered from that, and I think Adam Wharton might suffer the same fate, which is crazy because I'm pretty sure he was at the last England camp as well, and he still didn't make this 20-man squad. He's about to play in a Conference League for Palace, had a great season, getting linked to all these teams. He's getting linked to United, City. I even saw Real Madrid links earlier in the season. I'm thinking, yo, like, the guy is a proper player, but hey, man, that's Thomas Tuchel's decision, man. But yeah, that's probably the main one for me where I'm just like, damn, such a talented player. I'm pretty sure he's only 21 as well. Such a talented player. For Palace to pluck him from the Championship and for him to be that good in the Premier League, special player in my opinion. But unfortunately, he doesn't make it. And then lastly, let's talk about two guys who at the start of the season were nowhere to be found really, but their end of form season, it put their names in the hat, you know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, they didn't make it. And them two were Levi Colwill and Miles Lewis-Skelly. As for Levi Colwill, he did only play 4 or 5 games at the end, but he looks very good. You know what I'm saying? He looks very good. Came back at Anfield, was superb in my opinion. FA Cup final, playing part, breaking lines with those passes. Brilliant in my opinion, but and he looked quick as well. There was a few times where he was forced to, you know, sprint, and he looked sharp. He looked very sharp. And I'm a big fan of Levi Colwill, especially him being a left-footed centre-back. Hey man, different dynamics, nice balance to a team. But hey man, this is a blessing in disguise probably for Colwill himself. He can give his body time. He doesn't have to rush back. You know what I'm saying? He can take it day by day just to make sure an injury like that, what he suffered, doesn't happen again. You know what I'm saying? So he can take this time in the off-season, get a little bit more rest in, and just sort of work his way, gear back up to help Chelsea have a better season that they did this year, you know what I'm saying? Because, boy, they're going to need a guy like Levi Colwill to do better than they did this year. Then as for Lewis-Skelly, I thought, yo, he might make it. There were rumours saying that, there were reports saying that, he's done enough. But unfortunately, he did not make the England squad. Thomas Tuchel's decision once again. I just feel like, it's just a case of like, that midfield is going to be hard to break for. I feel like Tuchel has his guys. He likes Declan in there. He likes Bellingham in there, which is crazy because, there were reports about, Bellingham not making it earlier on, being scapegoated and all of that. But I think, a guy like Bellingham was always going to make it. I always thought those reports were rubbish, you know what I'm saying? I knew Bellingham was going to make it. But I think Tuchel has his guys in that midfield. I think Morgan Rogers is really Tuchel's guy. He really likes him. So it's going to be hard for Lewis-Skelly to break in midfield, you know what I'm saying? And even at left back, with the likes of O'Reilly, Dan Burn, Spence, all those fullbacks, Livramento, it's going to be hard to break in. But yeah, I think those two were two that, like I said, if they did make it, I would have been like, could have made it, you know what I'm saying? Could have made it, but unfortunately it wasn't to be for them at this tournament. But hey man, that was a long video, probably yapped, but that's my opinion on the 2026 England squad. To be fair, I don't really have too much of an issue with this squad. I sort of see the vision, see what Thomas Tuchel is trying to do with this squad. The one guy who probably got left out that I feel like should have been in there was probably Adam Wharton. And then the one who really raised my eyebrows when he was selected for me personally was John Stones. But apart from that, I'm pretty sure this is probably the best that England had based on the current circumstances. And hey man, good luck to England this summer at the World Cup, man. Good luck to Tuchel and the boys.